Now, this talk, I have to say, is not the best way to start, but this talk is got me really confused because it said a CU that wants to do good to others, right? That's the title, yeah? But this passage is not really about that. So I had a discussion, the big discussion in my mind. What do? Do I preach on people who want to do good to others, in which case you should have taken me to Timothy, or you should have taken me to Titus, which would be brilliant for that, or do I preach this passage, which is really, at this point, is really about making godly decisions? And I am a person, you have to know, who preaches the word of God. That's my passion, that's what I live for. I think that that's how you grow as a Christian. More than anything else, if you read... Oh gosh, I get very excited as well. So you have to get used to that. People in my church know... The church that I serve know that. And I get very excited. So if I get excited, just push that aside and listen to what I'm saying, if you can, okay? But the way that you grow as Christians is that you read God's word, you say, what does this teach me about God? Because the Bible is always teaching you about God first. What does this teach me about God? And therefore, what am I to do? Okay? So if you have a Bible, open it up to 1 Corinthians. If you don't, I don't know if it will come up there on the screen, but if you're a Christian, get a Bible. Make sure you've got one on your phone or on your iPad so that you always have one with you. Okay? That's really very, very helpful for you. Now, because I think I'm totally prepared, I need a Bible and I need something done because I have to use my iPad for my notes. Thank you. Okay, sorry, I've wasted a lot of time, so let's get started straight away. We're going to try and figure out this question about, if I'm a Christian, what are the decisions that I have to make? How do I make good, godly decisions? Now, at one level, you immediately go, oh, gosh, that's a bit boring. Now, I said to myself, Charlie, whatever you do, please don't make this a boring talk, okay? Because these guys are studying all week. Most of you who are doing science subjects here are doing boring subjects. I did electronic engineering. I know what it's like. The last thing that you need is to have a boring talk. So I'm going to try and make it short. I'm going to try and make it succinct. But as a Christian, you've got to be thinking, what am I supposed to be doing in X or Y situation? What do I do to help others understand about Jesus? Okay? And you have to go the extra mile. Now, the problem is, until I start giving you examples, you kind of think, well, this is a bit abstract. But the problem is, what do I do when is something actually a sin? When have I crossed the line when I'm trying to reach my non-Christian friend or not? When have I actually crossed that line? When is it a bad thing that I'm doing? Now, I was really tempted not to do this, but you guys are all very clever, so I'm going to do this anyway. In my day, I can't believe I said that now. In my day, when I was in Swansea CU, the big question was, can a Christian go to a nightclub? I don't know whether it's the same for you guys here or not, but that was the big dividing issue. It caused all kinds of ructions. From this absent, quiet silence, I'm pretty sure it sounds like that is the case here. So if that is, I promise you we're going to kind of slightly deal with it here. And we're going to deal with all kinds of situations just like that. Okay? That's what this passage is actually dealing with. Now, you might not have thought that when you read this passage, because it was talking about idols and eating food sacrificed to idols. So let me give you a small background. I don't know how many of you have read this passage before. I don't know how many of you have come today thinking, right, I know I'm going to hear a talk of 1 Corinthians 10, so I'll read it up beforehand and I'll make sure I know. But just in case you've come today and you haven't read the passage, and you've just read it now and you're still thinking to yourself, I don't really guess what that's going on about. Imagine this, okay? You're in a situation, you're a Christian, you live in a town, and you know that God says you cannot worship idols, okay? And all the people around you worship idols. In general, not all, but there are a couple of Christians, and you've all become Christians, but they worship idols. Now, you are desperate to try to reach out to them. You want to explain about the mercy and the grace and the love of the Lord Jesus Christ, and you want them to come and know that. So you want to go the extra mile. Now, here's a problem that you've got. In the fact that your friends worship idols, they eat meat which has been sacrificed to Zeus or to Diana, right? There's a big fat burly priest, and he says some magical words, and he praises God, and he cuts up the meat, and then people eat it, okay? The problem also is that you don't want to do that. You don't want anything to do with worshipping Zeus, because you know there's only one God. But the problem is almost all the meat that you get in Tesco's came from that temple. Are you with me? Mm-hmm. So that's your problem. So now some Christian says to you, oh, you can't eat meat because it was sacrificed to this idol. And, we're not supposed to live for idols. And then there's another Christian who says, well, look, it doesn't really matter. It's just meat. I don't believe in that idol. I'm going to eat it anyway. Who's right? Who's wrong? Yeah? That's the problem you've got. That's the problem that you've got here in this passage. Who's right? Who's wrong? How do I live? How do I make good, godly decisions? And because I brought up that thing about nightclubs earlier on, you can see how the two things are actually very similar. Can you not see that? Please nod or give me some kind of feedback. Yeah? You can see how they're similar, right? They're different, clearly different, but the principle is the same. It's not a clear-cut thing. It's not that the Bible says you can do this or you can't do that. But yet, you know that there's a bit of grey. So how do I, as a Christian, follow the Lord Jesus, my Saviour, when things are a little bit grey? And that's what you've got here. All right? So, now I can get to it. Very simply, because I want to make this a short talk, people in my church, I said it again, I'm never supposed to say, if you get anybody who comes to you and says, my church, tell them, you got that wrong. Because actually it's the Church of Jesus Christ. You might be the pastor who serves, but it's not your church. So people in the church where I serve, I made the mistake twice already, right? Know that actually I preach for a very long time. I tend to preach for about 40 minutes. And people find out, and I promise you, I'm going to make this much, much shorter. Okay? So relax. Okay? But we've understood what the problem is. Let me show you the answer, because I've given it to you in a nice flow chart, which I nicked off somebody else. It wasn't mine. I never take credit for stuff that's not mine. Here is God's answer to dealing with this problem, because it is not a black and white situation. And you belong to, if you're a Christian, you belong to a Lord who understands that you face things that aren't always black and white. Yeah? And wonderfully, he wants you to use your brain, which is good, because he gave you it, right? And he can give you wisdom, and this is wisdom about making godly decisions. If I'm shouting too much, just do something like that. Right? So because I do get excited, and sometimes it's a bit off-putting. So I don't want anything to put you off the Word of God. Okay, so ignore me, trust the Word of God. All right. So let me give you the answer to this very quickly before we have our question and answer situation. If you look at verse 30 through to verse 31 through to verse 33, and on to chapter 1, verse 1 of chapter 1, this is the summary, the principle of how you go about making good, godly decisions. Let me read it for, let me read it for you. So, whether you eat or drink or whatever you do, do it all to the glory of God. Do not cause anyone to stumble, whether Jews or Greeks or the church of God. even as I try to please everyone in every way, for I am not seeking my own good, but the good of many. That's where the title comes from. So that they may be saved. That's why he's doing what he's doing, right? So that my friend may know about Jesus. So follow my example, says Paul, as I follow the example of Jesus Christ. It's very easy to be a good Christian, to make good decisions. Step one, glorify God. If you have 3 decisions you have to make, A, B, and C, and you're thinking to yourself, well, which one do I choose? Ask yourself the simple question, which one of these decisions glorifies God? Very easy. Step 2, you want to say to yourself now, consider everybody who's involved in this decision. Consider the people who will be watching me in this decision, right? And make sure you put their advantage before yours. That's it. That's all you need to do to make good Christian decisions. Think, I want to glorify God and I want to put others before myself. It's a rewording, isn't it, of what Jesus always said, or what Jesus said was the most important thing. Love God, love your neighbor. Yeah? And Paul is saying, glorify God and put your neighbor first. Yeah? So it's really quite simple. We should all pack up and go home now. It's all done. But you know that it's not that black and white, is it? And that's what we've got here. So you've got to start thinking to yourself, now how do I actually do this? What's actually going on? So here we are. We're going to try and figure out what am I to do. And what I want to do with you is I want to talk you through that little flow chart. And I want to do it for this idea of eating meat. So I'll show you exactly what it says in the Bible, and then we'll use some more modern day equivalent examples, and then it will hopefully come to life and go, oh yeah, I can see what's going on. Right? This isn't a panacea for all things. You have to use your brains. Sometimes it's not dead easy, but this is a useful way for you to make some decisions, right? So here we go. This is it. Paul spends 3, as you've been through this, if you've been going through Corinthians, this is right, haven't you? You've been going through Corinthians. He spent 3 chapters going through this whole issue about eating meat. It's such a big issue. He's sweated over it. He's tried to get people to understand that it's not just a simple yes or no. And the question is, what do I do? Am I glorifying God first and foremost, or and by doing that, he's saying, am I participating in idolatry? So look at verse 21. Take a good look at it and see what it actually says. Verse 21. Have I got that right? Right. You cannot drink the cup of the... No. Sorry. Give me 1 second. Yeah, we'll do it from verse 21. In verse 21, he says, you cannot drink the cup of the Lord and the cup of demons too. You cannot have a part in both the Lord's table and the table of demons. Are we trying to arouse the Lord's jealousy, or are we stronger than he? If you were to take communion, what would you do? You would come together, we would say, listen, we're trusting in the Lord, we thank him for the fact that Jesus died on the cross for our sins. We take this as a symbol, as a sign of what Christ did. And because of what Christ did, we know that we are all one. Jesus rescues you and he brings you into his family. So when I take communion, I'm saying I'm part of God's family. I'm trusting in what Jesus does. You, when you take communion, you're saying I'm trusting in Jesus. I'm part of God's family. Therefore, we're one. Right? And he says, similarly, in pagan festivals, in pagan type scenarios like sacrificing to Zeus, what they're saying is we're all one. Now, there is no real Zeus, there is no Diana, but there are spiritual forces behind all idols. So what you are doing, if you go along to your local temple And because you say, well, I'm free and I love the Lord Jesus, but I'm trying to reach my non-Christian, my Zeus loving friend, I'll go along to his service, and then afterwards I'll have a cup of tea with him and I'll talk to him about the gospel. The problem is you are participating in that particular festival or that particular sacrifice. So you are saying, I'm one with the demon that's actually behind this. And Paul says to you, no. You've crossed the line. Do you get it? No. You've gone over the line. Even though the whole reason you're going there is to try to rescue your friend, you've crossed the line. Right? Because actually, you are supposed to be following the Lord that rescued you, and the first commandment that the Lord has said is, you shall have no other gods but me. I'm very serious about you loving me. I'm very serious about being a holy God, and you have to take that very seriously. So you cross the line there. So here's what you do in a situation like this. You're going down to your local market, your local Tesco's, and you pick up some food, and you think, oh, now this will be a nice goat burger for me, but the problem is I know that it's been sacrificed to Zeus. Can I eat it or not? The question you ask yourself is really, am I participating in idolatry when I do this? If I eat this meat, am I joining in with worship to Zeus or Diana? And clearly the answer is no. I'm just eating meat. So that's kind of okay. Right? So you can move on to the next thing. Okay. Now the next thing, actually, you've had to actually do a little bit more hard work. The next thing is, well, what happens if I end up destroying, and this sounds really hard, my weaker brother? How many people know that weaker brother argument? Yeah, just stick your hand up. Don't worry if you don't. You know what we're talking about when we're talking about? Okay. So imagine that I'm. Let's use the going to a nightclub example. Imagine I'm going to a nightclub, and a person says, another Christian says to me, "I don't think you should go to the nightclub. You know, it's not a holy thing to do." And I go, "Okay, but I want to go to a nightclub. Is that all right?" And the guy says, "Yeah, but the thing is, it really offends me, and it hurts me. It stops me from, I just think you're doing utter wrong, and it's not the right thing, and I can't serve God properly." That's called a weaker brother argument. That is, the person who's offended has a weaker conscience, says that actually my conscience will not allow me to do that, and therefore if you do that, it will cause me trouble, especially if I join in with you. You never heard that before? You will hear that. As a Christian, you will hear that as you grow. Yeah? People will say, you can't do this, or you can't do the other, right? When there isn't a specific passage in the Bible that says so, and you're scratching your head thinking, well, what do I do? How do I make a right decision? Now, I want you to see what actually happens here. Because Paul says, if you are causing your weaker brother to stumble, don't do it. Because you love your weaker brother. You love your weaker brother's conscience. The reason why you're not to go is not actually because it might be the wrong thing. You think, actually, God thinks it's fine as far as I'm concerned. But it will cause my weaker brother to stumble. And for that reason, because I love my brother or sister, that's why I don't do it. Are you with me? Okay, so here's the question now. What happens if your weaker brother just throws up all kinds of things? All the time. Saying, oh, I don't want to, I feel that's hurting my conscience if you do this. Oh, I want to go down and eat kebab. Oh, no, that's my conscience. You'd end up not doing anything, would you? So the real question is, you've got to work this out. You've got to say, well, okay, does this actually destroy my weaker brother? Do you have a genuine reason for saying, if I did this, which I think is okay, and I can't see any biblical reason why I can't do it, if I did this, it would actually destroy your faith. So let me give you, in this particular example, let me give you what would have happened. Say you were a person who used to go to Diana's temple, and you used to worship at Diana's temple, and you see me walking into Diana's temple to speak with some other Christian in their dining room underneath, not in the actual main auditorium where they worship Diana, but I'm going downstairs and I'm sitting down and I'm eating with my friend who I'm talking to about Jesus, and you see it, and you used to be a worshipper. You immediately you might think, oh, well, Charlie can go in there, so maybe I can go in there again. But you know that the minute you go in there, you're going to start thinking, this is just all wrong. I'm not supposed to be anywhere near this. I've trusted in Jesus now. And you find that you're going against your conscience. I've caused you problems. Do you see that? That's the issue, right? So if I will end up destroying your faith, as in there's a real proper reason why you can't why you can't let me do whatever it is I'm about to do, then I don't want to do it. All right? So you're in the second square box there, right? First one is, am I participating in idolatry, right? Am I actually worshipping something that is not God? If I'm doing that, then I want to stop, right? The second one is, am I causing my brother to to kind of lose faith? Am I causing him to go against his conscience? If that's the case, I want to stop. But remember what this was all about. I'm desperately trying to reach my friend for Jesus. Yeah? So let's take the last possible objection that you can have. What if I sit down with my friend who's invited me to dinner, verse 25, he's invited me to dinner, and I decide I want to go, and I sit down to eat meat, and I'm pretty sure that actually he's sacrificed this thing to whatever God he has, but I'm here to talk to him about Jesus. So I'm not going to. I say grace and I thank God and I eat away, and I'm completely right to do so, says Paul. That's okay. Go ahead, do that, right? But halfway through the meal, he says to me, actually, this great piece of pork was sacrificed to Zeus. At that point, I've got to do something. Now, here's the interesting thing, right? Look at the passage with me. Look at verse 25. Let me read it for you. From verse 25 through to verse 29, right? Eat anything in the market without raising questions of conscience. So I can go down to my local Tesco's. I don't have to ask whether or not it's been sacrificed to Diana or Zeus. I can just eat it. Why? Verse 26. Because the earth is the Lord's and everything in it. Everything belongs to God. That's the reason why it doesn't matter if some person has sacrificed it to Zeus. Right? I can still eat it. Right? But if an unbeliever invites you to a meal and you want to go, verse 27, eat whatever's put in front of you without raising any questions of conscience. Okay? But verse 28, if someone says to you, this has been offered in sacrifice, then do not eat it. For the sake, now I want you to see this, both for the sake of conscience, both for the one who told you and for the sake of conscience. I am referring to the other person's conscience, not yours. Now, this can sound a little bit confusing, so I'll be slow, we'll go through this, and then we're pretty much finished, and we'll start using some more modern examples. I'm sitting down, I'm eating with my friend says to me, actually this was sacrificed to Zeus, and I say to him, I'm not going to eat this anymore. Let me tell you why. I'm not going to eat this anymore because you think that me eating this is me participating with you in the worship of Zeus. And I don't want to. actually, I'm a Christian. I trust in Jesus. I want to tell you about Jesus. I don't want to do that. Right? It's for the other person's conscience, not you, that you're doing this. I feel like I've lost people, but I'll move on. Okay? I feel like I've lost you. Let's see if we can use some practical examples or more modern day examples that might just be a little bit easier. Let's start with this one, halal meat. Okay? It's a bit more modern. Halal meat is meat that's killed in a specific way, and a Muslim cleric says a short prayer to Allah. Can I eat halal meat? There was the thing in the Daily Mail a while ago where this all kind of kicked off. Should you eat halal meat as a Christian? Yes. Now, look at this sheet. Ask yourself from question 1, that square box question 1, am I participating in idolatry? Am I worshipping another god, right, by eating this meat? No, clearly not. So I can move on, right? Now, would this destroy someone else's faith, a weaker brother's faith? Say a person who became a Christian who used to be a Muslim. Would he immediately think, oh my gosh, you can't do that, or if you do that and I do that, it's the wrong thing for me? Actually, no. Because most Muslims will tell you that actually, and we checked this out, that actually when a Muslim cleric says that prayer, it's a bit like saying grace. You know? So it doesn't really affect, you're not sacrificing the meat to Allah. All you're doing is you're saying thank you to God, right? Or to Allah, right? So can you eat the meat? Of course you can. No, I will not ruin my Muslim convert's faith by eating halal meat in front of him. Nor should he, no, Muslims will say no, there's nothing wrong with that. You can get this third situation, this more difficult one, where imagine a Muslim convert goes home and his family cooks him a meal and they think to themselves, if he eats this halal meat, then we know he's being a good Muslim again. And so halfway through the meal, you have your non-halal sort of starter, and then they bring out some halal meal course, and they say to you, oh, you're eating halal meat, you're a good Muslim again. At that point, you want to at least say, no, I'm not a good Muslim again. But it's fairly contrived, it's hardly likely to happen. Okay? So pretty much, you can eat halal meat. That's the short answer. Okay? Go ahead and eat halal meat. In fact, the Bible teaches you it's a good thing for you to do if you are trying to reach your non-Christian brother because you're not putting barriers in front. You're not saying, oh no, mate, I want to tell you about Jesus, but I won't sit and eat with you because you eat halal. Don't put false barriers in front of your friends that you're trying to reach for Jesus. Now, I hope you're with me on that one, yeah? Good, okay. Let's take another one. Football matches or going to a gig. If I go to a football match and people are waving their arms, are they worshipping the team, the Arsenal or Manchester United or whoever? Are they living for that? Because that's what. Some are. Thank you. Some are, aren't they? It might not be football. It might be rugby. It might be, you're fanatical about Bath rugby. You want to be there every single time, right? So what do you do if you're a Christian? You've got to think very carefully about that one. You've got to think to yourself, okay, am I worshipping the whole idea of sport, or the whole idea of a musician who's so you're just enthralled with Justin Bieber? I got that again laughing. You just think, right? If you are, then you need to make some adjustments. Basically, as a Christian, you just need to make some adjustments. Because actually God, the one who rescued you, the one who you're going to spend eternity with, the one who gave his life for you on the cross, that Jesus wants your whole heart, wants your whole attention. wants your whole working self, your worship. That's what worship is. Give your whole self to him. And if you're finding that you're spending majority of your money or your time or your energy on Justin Bieber or on Bath Rugby, you've got a problem. You are not worshipping the Lord your God. You are worshipping something else. Now, if your friend is doing that, go along with him, but at least at some point say to him, well, look, mate, this is not what I worship. Yeah? I want to come along with you, but, just once in a while, just say to him, no, or her, no. A good example for this one, I go to the gym. I don't go very often, but I go to the gym, and one of the people who I met at the gym, Neil, he's a really good friend of mine, and he trains incessantly on his day off. And he's well fit. He's gone from being 15 stone to 12, which at my age, that's really impressive, to drop three stone. And I'm with him, but there are days when I say, you know what, look, no, this is not my gig. I don't worship being super tanned and getting ripped and all that kind of, I'm too old for that. And actually Jesus is the person who I want to give all of my energy to. Now you see what I've done? In that 1 minute when I've had a conversation with him, I've swapped the whole thing about what it is I worship, or what it is he worships, to what it is I want to worship. And I've given myself an opportunity to speak about Jesus. That's what you want to do. Okay? That's the kind of stuff you want to do. Now you want to take this, let me take one last one. This one will kind of make you slightly uncomfortable, because you've got to think, guys, because you're cream of the crop, you're university students, you're brilliant. What about engaging in yoga? Because some people, yoga is just exercise, it's just stretching and, contorting yourself in all kinds of ways, right, to make you fitter. So, use this. Are you participating in idolatry? Are you worshipping something else by simply whatever? Are you? Well, actually, I don't think you are. Now, it's funny, you see, what you don't realize is I know that I'm touching on pressure points for different people. For some of you, you just think this is a laugh. For others of you, you think, actually, this is deadly serious. Because I would never be seen dead doing yoga. Not because of, but because of the spiritual connotations of it. And there are spiritual connotations, right? But am I, by stretching and convorting, am I engaging in idolatry? And the answer is no, I'm not. Right? But here's the thing. When it gets to the point that you've got some yoga teacher saying to you something like, it's great that we can be here and worship the sun or whatever it is, as we do this, because of the spiritual energy, as we contort ourselves, then you need to uncourt. You know what I'm saying? You need to stand up. and at that point say, no. And the reason is because I worship the living God rather than the sun or the whatever. Do you see how you could therefore go with your friend and do some yoga if your aim is that you want to reach your friend for Christ? But when it gets to the point that the yoga instructor starts talking that kind of stuff, you want to say to your friend, I'm sorry, I don't want to do that. And that will make your friend think, what? And now you have an opportunity to speak about the gospel. Yeah? It's about being wise and about being obedient to your Lord and Master who you serve.